our ultimate 2025 Springbok team, every Sunday with André Pretorius.
How's it? Welcome to the Lekker Rugby Pod, where we're going through position by position in Bokland to see what are the prerequisites, what are the add-ons, the bonuses, and what successorship plans are there for the people who are, the best in their position, but are getting a bit older. I'm here again with André Pretorius. André, we had a fantastic response to our number 8 soliloquy, where we went through all these guys. We had the best, we had the up-and-comers, the challengers, and sure enough, alignment camps, which are not the be-all and end-all, I know, but they came through, and Troki was in there, so we were happy to see our dark horse added. And for all the people who keep, jumping on and talking about that, just go to episode 75, where I explain why Evan Ruiz is still not he's in a doghouse a little bit still with the Boks. André, how you going?
I'm well, Larry. Good to be back. And yes, enjoyed the comments on the last video. You can see the number 8 position is one that's very well discussed amongst the rugby fans. It's kind of like when you're standing around a braai. If there's medical problems, you listen to the doctor. If there's plumbing problems, you listen to the plumber. But when there's rugby problems, everybody's an expert. And that's what we're looking for.
Yes, everyone is an expert. Cameron Honeycomb is a great player, and his durability issues are going to be the thing that takes him from where he is now until he's 25, 26. A lot of people start out gangbusters, but then, when you're in your 28, 30 years old era, that's when sometimes it can come back to haunt you. Evan Ruiz has to solve some of the interpersonal issues and family issues that we all sort of go through when we're young. And then Jasper Visa is back, who's just a big barrel of fun and pain. But this week we're going to talk about one of the near and dear favorite positions in South African rugby. It's a position that, we keep churning out these amazing, almost genius athletes. And it's the 7, which the rest of the world calls the 6, and the blindside. And I call this guy, in any team that I've ever been around, consulting, coaching, or playing in, it's the bouncer. So picture the bouncer. He's outside the club. He's the guy who stands there. He looks good. He's usually clean shaven if you're going to a good club. And he looks like a guy not only who can inspect you and know that you're going to be trouble before you're trouble, but he also knows how to separate people and put them in the right spot. But if there's going to be a fight, he will end you. He will destroy your night. He will ruin your ego. And after he cleans you out, he says, sorry, put you in an Uber. So he's that guy. And also, you don't really want to fight him. The best bouncers are the ones that no one actually ever fights. And they go, how many fights did you have, Mr. Bouncer? And you're like, I never had one. Because he looked like a guy where you thought, your eyes are a little bit merciless and dead. You look really smart. And you look quick as well. Like if I threw a punch in your face and ran around the corner, you'd catch me. So that position is our 7. And I go through all the physical attributes as well as that kind of killer aspect as well, because I think although it's a lock flank, it's a flank lock, although it's a utility forward, there is a set of elements in your blind side that if you have that down and you have that ready for your team, you've solved a big problem already. And so everything else that you can add on to that, ball handling skills, the ability to chase kicks, these are all bonuses. But give me a specimen who wins every tackle and always tries to get the most tackles in the team, who wins the gain line, even if he's at a standstill, and whose cleans are just the right amount of dirty, then that's what you need at blindside. So a South African 7 is a man of few words. He's big enough to take anyone down, but he's also quick enough to do it. And he just has a beer in the change room. He's not the guy going for the jewel. That's why he's the bouncer. He's a flank who can lock, and he speaks in short words. If you cast a wider net, we look across the world, Jerome Kano, Jerry Collins for the All Blacks, fearsome guys, nicest guys off the field, but not someone you would walk up to and mess with. Scott Fardy for the Wallabies, Marcos Kremer for the Pumas right now, looks like a nightmare. Courtney Law's just, a tough character. Peter O'Mahony, who, is just a character as well, but also someone you could imagine retiring to have a bar and being his own bouncer. Juwan Smith, who before Pieter-Steph du Toit was probably viewed as the best of all time. And I think most people, fair-minded people, would say Peter has him, Pieter-Steph just has him, just a little bit because of the add-ons. But it's the stuff, he's just the kind of guy that you can give everything to. You can say, Pieter-Steph, I need you to go above and beyond today, and he's always going to say yes to you quietly. Just a word for some people who will weigh in on why do we even have a blind side and an open side, because some teams don't. Argentina has traditionally just had a left and a right flank, just as South Africa did for a long, long time as well. And now you have sort of Juan Martin Gonzalez, Marcos Kremer, and Pablo Matera. You could play all of those guys in all those three positions, and they often do. The French also kind of have Gelange, Cro, and Olivon, and they move them around too. But we're gonna just focus today on Pieter-Steph du Toit, his greatness, and why he is the bouncer par excellence, and then what is in the wings. Who might be the one if Pieter-Steph does falter from now to 2027? Who is it in the wings that we look at and say, now that's interesting? But so, this is the hardest bastard. André, I know that we tried to narrow this down to 4 guys in the end, but look, if you look at flank locks and lock flanks, Ruan Nortia is playing a lot at blindside now. You have guys like Ludwig, you have Franco Mostert that can play there sometimes. You have Johannes Kirsten, you have Kubas Visa, who looks like someone who's possibly shaping that way. Even guys like that we're going to have in our list, some of them did play lock. Jacques Vermeulen, Marcel Tunison, Marcel Coetzee, who's a wonderful player, but they didn't make our list. So we went with these 4 guys. Pieter-Steph du Toit, the missile, the Malmesbury missile. Ben Jason Dixon, or as they call him in Western Province, Ben Duiksen. He's the engineer. And then we have Elrigh Louw, currently injured, but definitely the top of the pops, and he is the sheriff. And then we're going to reveal our 4th guy, who's not someone who's going to be on everyone's lists, and that's why it's good to have a dark horse. But he's angry and big. We'll give you that little hint. So tell me your reflections on maybe just in the teams you played on, but also the teams you've been around now coaching. This guy, the eat, break, mark, tool, bring, plan, just a fight guy. What's your reflections on the blindsider?
Harry, yeah, you've pretty much summed it up so well. The one thing I'd say is that the last episode we did, I called the 8 the fixer. And I think I'd probably call the 7 the fixer now. Having gone through all of these clips and having seen what a guy like Pieter-Steph du Toit is really, really capable of. And, for me, a good 7 doesn't just win collisions, he wins decisions. And that's what he gets right so well. And he does tend to miss some tackles, but if you look at why, it's because he's always putting pressure. He's always at full tilt. He's got an awareness on the clips later. You'll see one against Australia where he's putting pressure on White. He gets it wrong and immediately he's into a cover line. So the way that he fixes and solving problems under pressure, just getting into space, doesn't matter how tired he is, and ensuring there's a body visible in space where they probably, if they go there, he misses the tackle. That's how tired he is. There's a tackle on Adi Sevilla where he hits him. It's one of the best ball carriers in the world. Forward lean punch, hits him, stays down for a while, gets up from there, keeps going. There's another 13 minutes to go in the World Cup final. So, that problem solving under pressure one is big for me because it means that you're making decisions. And sometimes you're going out of system. He folds the way he wants to because he can see where the problems are, which I like. I really like. It's not a case of the defense system is so structured and you have to fold CBA and not ABC, etc. He gets into the space and he folds that. And then the next one is, I think, he's got to have a certain amount of disruption IQ. So he's not always just hitting rucks like a 6 and causing problems. Because he's so important in the line, you can't afford him to just be a number in a ruck. He needs to be effective in the ruck. Now, I had a look at the stats, and Pieter-Steph hitting 20 opposition rucks, of which 19 was effective. And that's that's good decision making. So that disruption IQ, I think, is very important. And like I said, they win those decisions. The physicality and the work rate will be there. So normally it's the good sevens that I played with and the good sevens that I'm coaching. It's a big hitting, line out jumping, work rate monster. And those are the guys that you want standing outside of your bar.
Exactly. Yeah, so we'll take us through the categories now. And these are loose, guys. We have to put some things inside these categories because we're trying to do a 40%, 30%, 20%, 10%, because it organizes it. And trust us that we're going to throw in, superior hands, or in some way we'll get that in there. But I think the first category is the specimen, being the right size, the right shape and size. To be a line-out threat, you don't have to get 7 line-out takes if you're a number 7, but you have to be a credible threat. And so if you put someone too short in the 7 spot, like England's doing right now when they have the 2 Curry twins as well as Ben Earl, there's a big problem there because it's so easy to guess where you're going to contest. If you're Pieter-Steph at the back or a guy like Jason Dixon at the back, you have to deal with that because he doesn't even need much of a lift. So the first one is sort of the right size, a specimen, the angry athlete, the collision hero. The second one, the 30%, is the tackle, like you say, tackle monster, the ruler of the tackle, not just the tackle, but the tackle zone. I've seen Pieter-Steph roll someone backward on purpose, not commit to the collision because he wants to get the next guy to pilfer him. Soaking tackle, sometimes staying out of a position where you're going to get snagged because you want your 7 on his feet as much as possible. The third category is the gain line winner. So when you need, sometimes, people say, what's the biggest lift? Is it a 50-22? Is it a drop goal? Is it someone making a break? Man, a crushing tackle where you turn over, a turnover tackle, which may only happen once or twice in a game. But if you do that to Artie Surveyor, the best carrier on the other team, sows doubt. You want your 7 to be the guy where you're not really sure how safe he is. And the final one is the clean, which is such a hard work now to get to the rucks, to be able to do it legally. No crocodile roll suspicion, no head-to-head. You saw Pieter-Steph crying in Marseille that one time against France where he was red carded early on because he knew that, without him cleaning, the box lives get much harder. But this isn't a rare event. And so for Pieter-Steph, we're going to go through the clips that you've been gathering. And I know you told me you could have been doing this forever because he's a clip highlight man. But we have him ranked the highest possible score pretty much that you could think of across these lines. We have as a specimen, as the right size, he's a 40 out of 40. He's shaped the right way. He's a ripping, lean, shredded athlete. He's an 800-meter guy who is also a lock size. So that's the perfect combination. He wasn't allowed to be a flank at Western Province. It was probably Jake White who probably was the advent of that. And then inside Bokland, it was a horrible thing at first. He was run around by scrum offs, but he found his way. Second category in tackle, he's a 30 out of 30. If you want to go to tackle school like you do now to get out of a card or shave weeks, just ring up Pieter-Steph and say, teach me how to tackle. Stays low, hits the ribs, sometimes rides the guy and gets extra meters. Gain line 19 out of 20 because no one's at 20 out of 20 because sometimes you do get hit backward, and then 9 out of 10 for the clean. He's very rarely pinged. So you put that all together, it's a 98% guy, and that makes sense because we don't know what we're going to do post Pieter. I don't know what that looks like, but we're going to miss him more than we know when he's gone. So take us through the clips about Pieter-Steph and show us what you saw upon closer review.
The big thing I saw, Harry, is that we need to make contingencies very, very early, or we need to get him into some sleeping capsule and keep him ready for the World Cup because this guy is phenomenal.
Yes, I agree.
All right, Harry. So what we'll start with is just to show that these guys have got the necessary line-out capabilities. I've just chucked in a couple of line-out plays, and what was interesting is how good Jason Dixon actually looked within lineouts. But on Pieter-Steph du Toit, no problems lineout wise. He's very, very happy to take that back ball. Good delivery there for the maul. Next one again, even on a late I assume this was a late lift, brought about some pressure, he still gets that delivery spot on. So line out jumping is definitely not a problem for Pieter-Steph. The next thing we want to look at is just, you don't want to be that guy that just runs into walls. You want to bring a bit of variation, and he does have that. He can get rid of it. He can stay alive into the next one, and he's back cleaning that ruck. So it's not just a case of him running into walls. He can distribute the ball when it needs to happen. On this one, wide play in the trams, great skill to catch that. He gets the offload wrong, yeah, but at least the awareness is there. And he gives a little wry smile to Jesse Creel afterwards. Because he knew he had butchered a very good opportunity for himself there.
Looks like a play you could do a lot too, because that's going to be open. When you see a forward out there, no one pays attention.
Yeah, and if I were teams, I'd pay a lot of attention to him, that's for sure. On the attack again, just the way that he runs his tip lines, see how he sets himself off that front pod so he can hit the ball at pace. He runs into a triple hit on that one, and he still gets into the gain line. You can see there, into a triple hit, but the way, look how he drops his body into contact, and this is one of the reasons he's a gain line master, because once he gets into the contact, he might be a bit high there, but on that, he drops his body down, and he makes the ball available.
No, I don't think he could ever be choke tackled into a maul call. No way.
No. Again, first contact, as soon as that first contact's broken, he drops, closes the space to the ball, and look at this tackle. He can never get low enough to actually tackle Pieter-Steph on that one. And through that, he gets us the penalty on this one. Timing of the runs, so important, especially if you're out the back plays. Because he runs that line so well, the defender has to look at him, and this ball can actually go out the back to Sasha. The wing's the last defender here. So if we get better decision-making, or Sasha just disconnects probably a little bit later, you've got an opportunity here. But that's what Pieter-Steph does. Because he runs such good lines, and his timing is so good, he makes that ball available. And he makes this look easy, but for him to wait from that pass, a lot of guys get too flat on this. Perfect timing. And like I said, that's the wing at the bottom, yeah? If that ball goes out the back, there's probably about 4 backs running into that space. Just one guy doing his job the right way. And then with ball in hand, also makes good decisions, gets the ball into space, yeah? But he knows he's probably not going to beat the cover defense, and there's one defender left. So instead of putting Mapimpi against the best defender in the world, which is the touchline, he decides to keep the ball, immediately turn around, and his awareness again. He knows there's no threats on the ball, keeps the ball available, and he forces Mapimpi to actually pick and go here and to keep them under pressure. And just like Pieter-Steph does, gets up immediately and is into that next ruck. Work rate monster. This is something interesting, Harry. I think you'd remember, I think it was last year, they were talking about Leinster and Munster having this cannon arm on the ground when they're doing pick and goes.
Mm-hmm.
Pieter-Steph does this so well. So he gets knocked on the legs, leg chop, uses the arm, keeps himself upright, and gets over the gain line. Now, this doesn't surprise me, but the way he goes about his business is just phenomenal. One thing he needs to be careful of is, because he sets himself so far off the head of the pod, and he preserves, because he wants the ball, Harry. He wants to run with the ball. He knows he can have an impact with the ball. Because he wants to run with the ball, he preserves that tip line a little bit too long sometimes.
Mm.
And what happens is he gets side on to the breakdown, and that's probably what led to a couple of his croc rolls in his early days, because he wants the ball, preserves that tip line so long, and then the tip doesn't come, and he has to clean from the side. And on this one, it's exactly that. I think we got lucky here because they pushed the runner into the side, but it's a slow ball. And I think that's something that he needs to have a look at, just to know and make good decisions when it comes into that contact area. Right, next one is the rucking. Now, Pieter-Steph, so experienced. Now, a lot of young players get into this position, and instead of having their eyes up, they'll be looking at the ball through their legs, trying to see if the nine's going to take it. And that's when that's a cue for these defenders to get a counter ruck going. But you'll see Pieter-Steph, no threat on the ball, gets his head up and secures that ball. Again, makes the small detail look very easy. Different type of cleanness. He's removing the threat. He's body focused, not ball focused. So he gets onto the threat immediately, and he removes that threat, ensuring that we get that ball back. And then the last one on the rucking is just tackling the tackler in the air. Just latching and driving, not waiting for the ruck to form. Latching and driving. And while that thing is in the air, we're still winning meters. So the decision making, again, that IQ of his is good in situations like that. He's also a great jackler. Even though he's 2 meters long, 2 meters tall, he's a great jackler and gets into, look at that position.
Yep.
That's like a Brousseau or a Full War, one of those real sixes getting over the ball, and he gets paid for this year.
That's the one I was thinking about. He let Angus Bell get that gain line on purpose. He took 2 steps back on purpose, took a longer line, and then has him right where he wants him, cradled like a baby.
Stayed on his feet, onto the ball. Great technique for a big man like him. And again, disruption IQ. Sees 2 ruckers gone past the ball because of the dominant head, changing the picture for the ruckers. Realizes there's an opportunity, and he gets onto Ellis Gensch there, slowing that ball down. And this is what I was talking about with the folding, Harry. So he could have probably stayed on the inside of Sia, pushed Sia and Bongi across. Instead, he went past them and he folded into the space inside Elrigh.
My
England
understanding,
actually scored.
he's a free agent. He gets to rove. He's a rover. He's a bit like Faf and Jesse in that sense. Inside the Nienaber and Flannery defense is that Pieter-Steph gets to decide where he slots, holds, folds.
I like that. And it's for situations like these where Elrigh can just go a couple of meters wider now, and we've got a good corner on the side. They actually score from this just due to the fact that we had no defense on this side, and Marcus Smith, he ID'd that early. And I left the tackle for last, but there he is on the side. Nice little body in front, gets up, and again, even as the tackler, so it's not, we spoke about players that are much better when they're doing their primary job, but he did his primary job, didn't get out and just got into the line. He kept going for the ball, kept that ruck pressure going. And this was in the World Cup final. Now, one of the most difficult spaces to defend is this vacuum space close to your 22, because you got good line speed. He sets a bit narrower, which normally leads to him missing the jump with the rest of the line. But the way that he gets his shoulder into Barrett, it's bad visual. I can't really show you much better than this. But if you pick up that timing, how he launches into him. Now, Barrett probably had a stamp of Pieter-Steph's shoulder on his on his chest after this game. But the way he launches into those tackles in the vacuum, high speed, it's just a total disregard for his body. Again, just showing how he gets body in front. And like you said, low. Look at the pillar at the back. This technique is so good. Shoulder on and everything just stopping right there.
He does it deep into games too. So a lot of players start with the right technique, but they get tired. Pieter-Steph has that muscle stamina where he can keep getting his core down to the right spot. Most of the guys who get in trouble, it's because they got tired. They didn't mean to go in high.
That's right. I agree. One more. This is the Adi Sevilla one. Sevilla, one of the best ball carriers in the world. Look at how he leans forward into the tackle. And that's a high-speed tackle on the gain line. And he was hurt here, and it's 67 minutes into the game. And obviously, we know he finished this game. So I think he plays like that a lot of the time. This is the one I was speaking about. Close. He's set up close to the 15. He misses the jump, so he's in behind. But then his chase and cover tackling is superb as well. Uses to an advantage, covers that, and we actually slow that ball down. Now, again, normally your tackler would recycle opposite side to keep your numbers equal. You'll have two to fold. Not Pieter-Steph. He goes same side. Like you said, he's got license to pretty much do whatever he likes. This is where he adds big value. It's his chase and cover tackling.
You're not expecting that one when you come down from the catch.
Of course. And because we've got such a good kicking game, the reason it's so good is because of guys making tackles like these, putting them under pressure, slowing this ball down, and now they've got a ruck on the widest part of the field, which is the last place you want to attack from. Again, Colby seeing that space, Pieter-Steph right on the edge, gets hold of him, and immediately he's up. He wants to put pressure on that ruck. Look at the amount of numbers they have to put in there just because he's part of it.
And importantly, when he got there, he didn't get penalized because he was able to come in low. He almost thought, I got to slide in here because if I go anywhere normal, I'm going to catch a knee in the head or I'm going to be carded.
Clever. Very, very clever. And then, like I said, he does tend to miss sometimes. Ball awareness, he can see that ball's out. White reacts well, misses there, but immediately on a cover line. Gets into that space, just loses his footing. I think he probably has a jackal opportunity when he goes there. But this is difficult.
But I don't mind that, Andre. I don't mind that miss because it's literally like in a military kind of sense. You're forcing the attack into a space that it wasn't intended to be in. So so you're actually, in a way, your disruption technique theory. He's disrupting with that miss.
Exactly. And I think like our 13s, like Jesse Creel, you can kind of, there's a bit of mitigation for some of their missed tackles because they're forcing the attack to do something they're not used to or they don't want to. And that's exactly what Pieter-Steph does. This is another example of it. The cancel move, coming back. Now he's got more than 15 meters of space to cover. Chases for all that he's worth, ensures that he gets there and then loses his footing. Now that'll be put down as a missed tackle, which is tough, but the work rate's just phenomenal. And then just a couple more on the tackle. Again, better jump, but he's not on the inside. That's why he's up with the line. Jordie Barrett. And I mean, that's still in the first half. We're leading by 6. I think you do sow seeds of doubt when you got one of your best ball carriers running the ball and getting hit the
Get
way that
out of the
Geordie got
club, boy.
PTO.
You're expelled.
Exactly.
Boom.
And then this is one of the ones that I think Geordie will remember the most. After the drop goal, he was looking to attack. That's just body in front. And he doesn't check, Harry. That's the biggest thing for me. He doesn't check for the tackle. He just keeps going.
He accelerates into tackle, which actually is a very difficult to coach skill because our
right.
human nature is to flinch. But he actually accelerates into contact and he takes off the plane, doesn't land the plane, whether he's cleaning or tackling. So it's usually legal. It's usually something that it's a picture the referee likes.
And again, because he's got this awareness, he knows he's just caught that ball. He's not going to have time to step or dummy. He's going to get him ball and all, and that's why he can keep going. But that awareness is some players say you can be coached, but I think he reads that so well. And then I put this one in just to show probably 2 minutes to go into the World Cup final. Gets up off the ground. Now, in front of probably one of the best attackers in the world, you got 3 defenders. Now, Damian McKenzie can step over 2 or 3 channels, and that's exactly what he did here. And if Pieter-Steph didn't cover this space, so he steps, Pollard, Kwagga needs to make the tackle. Now the next channel's open. Now, if Pieter-Steph doesn't cover there, they're into space. Covers that, covers the offload, and we get to defend another phase from there. And then I saved this one for last with his big mate, Eben Etzebeth, assisting him with this try. Good kickoff, good pressure. Now, apparently, Eben sits down before games and he checks the time it takes the 9 to kick their box kicks so that he can time. He looks at their technique. He looks at the time they take for that exact reason. Gets the charge down, keeps chasing, and then who's there? No one else but Pieter-Steph, and he gets rewarded for that one.
The unusual double charge down try.
That's right. Just from the back, great pressure, keeps chasing. At this stage, he knows he's in with a shout to catch Marcus Smith. He didn't expect the kick probably. Hands in the air, kept it, stayed alive, and then got that try. Like I said, I could have probably put in 1 episode's worth of clips for Pieter-Steph, but he's a phenomenal athlete.
He's a man of every great match, every big match. He's the man of the match. We can just write it down before it happens. He's one of the best of an era in which the Boks were the best at the thing he's doing. His utilitarianness allows a lot of the other people in the Bok pack to do what they do because they can be specialists because he's like you say, the fixer gluing everything together. He plays every minute of the rugby match as if it's the first minute. You couldn't really tell which minute it's in if you didn't have the score on the bottom. He is a rallying call. He's the kind of guy who makes you cry if you watch him play and you really imagine what's going on in there. He's a spirited guy, even though he's quiet. So he's the perfect. It doesn't get any better. This is the problem now because all these guys in the golden generation are reaching that kind of tricky age where the surgeries are becoming more frequent. The rehab of each surgery is a little bit harder. And so you're on borrowed time. So we have 98 for Pieter-Steph and we tell him, you're the best, put you in a cryo chamber, ship you off to sabbatical world, just hunt tigers somewhere in Siberia. I don't know, do something different and come back ready to win man of the match again in 27. But if that's not possible, we now have these other guys. You want to go with Ben Jason or Elrigh first?
I think we can go with Elrigh.
Okay. So we're going to go with the Sheriff. And here we have a guy who could play lock. He has the dimensions of a lock, but he's very useful as an all-purpose loose forward. We could have talked about him at number 8. Probably it's a stretch to go 6. But if you go 5, 7, or 8, Elrich's your man, and he's a sheriff. We know he's a sheriff because his family breeds horses and trains horses, and he could have been that good too in horses. Show us some pictures about Elrigh Louw, who's currently on the mend.
Harry, just before I show the pictures, I think what makes these gentlemen so special is the fact that there's a test where Pieter-Steph, and I think I can't remember if it's, you probably remember, if he played with Jason Dixon or with Elrigh Louw. Pieter-Steph played 5. But Pieter-Steph didn't play 5. He played Pieter-Steph. So when you put these guys in different positions, and that's something that Russ is just, I think any coach wants to get this, and he's got this magical ability to have depth within his depth.
Right.
But the fact is, I think with the Springboks now, if you play 4 to 8, 6 being the exception to a bit more specificity and specializing in certain areas, but they don't play the number. They play their game. Franco Mostert, if he's playing 5 or 7, he's playing Franco Mostert. And I think when you have someone like Elrigh playing Elrigh, put him anywhere, you know what you're going to get.
No, I agree. Elrigh has some special attributes that are different. And one of the things is, if we went through what I just talked about being a bouncer, I'm hiring Elrigh as a bouncer. I think he makes everyone happy. Everyone's cool. No one even tries him. No one even steps to him.
Right, Harry. So just like with Pieter-Steph, first couple, just to show very capable line-out taker. Great hands, good delivery, no problems there. Good jumper, back ball. He's the man for that moment. When we get onto the defense, very aggressive. So he gets an opportunity with Itzebet, and then also doesn't mind going low. What I would like to see, though, is him not losing his feet as early as this in the tackle.
Yeah.
Because what that does is it takes away the opportunity to stay in front, and then it takes away the opportunity to have a post-tackle involvement. And although he's very aggressive, he gets shoulder on, he doesn't... I see more tackles, shoulder tackles than I do chest tackles with Elrigh, which means that he's fine with having shoulders on. I'd just like to see him keep his feet for longer so we don't have that finish. Out of the game, they over the gain line, and now we got no ruck pressure on that. And I think he's got the body for that. He can do that.
Yeah.
Very good leg chop tackler. Again, gets himself a bit wider, and he does get side on. But what he does well, I call it the one leg get. Because it's difficult if a guy's stepping away from you to get, especially the size of the legs that's playing rugby these days. To get your arms around both of them is very difficult after a step. And that launch into that side on, and still making the tackle it's a difficult thing to do. And now him and Jason Dixon do this well. Off the maul, closes up that offload option. So there's a chop at the bottom with Mbonambi. Elrigh, nice and physical. And then again, that disruption IQ. He knows there's only one guy. He's late. That's the position I'd love to see him finishing more, Harry.
Yeah.
Because from there, you can really get hold of the ruck. And
he's a one-man counter ruck. He has the strength, the core strength to be able to do that. And I was imagining if Pieter-Steph was getting strong by throwing wine barrels around, Elrigh was getting strong by horses and training horses. And you got to have strong hands and forearms. He does seem like once he gets a hold of you, he doesn't let go.
And that's like this. That's okay to be chesty. And this one takes away the offload. But again, that finish, because that finish gives us that result. I'd love to see him get more of those finishes. I think he can have an impact on the rucks that he gets involved in. And then as a jackler, he can also get into a great position. Survives the clean, And he gets unlucky here because we got pinned for someone not rolling. Carrier, not scared to take the ball and hit people. He does get very, very confrontational when he's carrying the ball, and that's just something you absolutely want to see from your 7.
He does. He gets worse, and he gets more upset the more he carries. And when someone hits him, it's like he takes personal offense.
That's right, and I enjoy that. And he loves running this little ball of 9, probably a bit high, but he's got good awareness of where the defenders are. And again, I don't think this was intentional. I just picked it up, that little cannon arm going down again, the tackler not holding on to him, and him just staying up. But isn't it remarkable how these guys have all got the same trademarks in terms of, we're not going to give you the tackle, you're going to have to earn it. So if you let me go, I'm going to get up and I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, I've heard that Coach Stick is the author of some of these moves in the tackle zone, of staying alive, and if you're on defense, making the tackle long, and if you're on attack, making it miserable to tackle you. And yeah, that seems to be something that's not just coincidental.
I like that fight for, like Al Pacino said, that every inch that they try and get, and that's really what I feel.
Because it makes the All Blacks they're either offside or they have to retreat one more time when they were about to reset. You look at Scott Barrett there; he's thinking, "Okay, I'm good here, and then that extra. Now he's not really relevant.
2 more tacklers have to get involved, have to look at the ruck, and all of a sudden your defense system looks a lot different. Just one guy fighting for that extra meter or so. Also not scared to have a go, pick and go. Pieter-Steph does this really well. I haven't put this into his clips, but pick and go off the side, stays alive. And again, there is Pieter-Steph actually just off the side there. And then he's actually got some twinkle toes as well. Stepping, one of the best steppers in the world. Nice little jump.
Yeah.
Inside. And there again. That's remarkable. It's so nice to watch. Changes the ball, cannon arm, and he keeps going.
I hadn't noticed this until right then, but he's leggy. I mean, his proportion of legs, arms to his torso is a bit like Pieter-Steph, that they're big wingspan guys.
That's right. And on the rucking, he holds his own. 2 defenders, he's on his own. Obviously, they're going to counter-ruck, and he keeps that ball for us. Gets us wrong, keeps fighting, and we get to have another chance. 2 All Blacks over the ball. He gets rid of both of them. So rucking is not a problem for Elrigh, and he does it aggressively. Tackle the tackler. Again, this is a decision that you have to make in the moment. A lot of players tend to get into the habit of, and we train this as coaches without knowing, where you doing head shields for rucking. And what guys tend to do is they're waiting for the head shield to appear to clean him. And without knowing, we're training players to wait for the target before you clean over the ruck. Whereas you want to win the ruck in the air. And the way you do that is by tackling the tackler and latching and driving, or either latching and driving on your player or tackling the tackler, just like Elrigh does here. Nice and clean ball. We get to go onto the box kick. So Elrigh, very clinical. I had a look at the stats for tackling. He's over 90% for his tackles. He's very effective with his rucking. And I think I hope that knee holds up now and he gets to play a long range of games after this injury.
Such a big shame because he was playing so well. He was a mainstay. And I even think it really affected the Bulls as a team as a whole because he was the dynamo of it. You look at those clips and just our memories of Elrigh in his short time. He's a winner. He's not afraid to win. He, at early age, is a captain. Not at Bok level, but at the Bok level, he's not deferring to people. I mean, he's not disrespectful, but he's not deferring to them.
I think
He,
just on that area, the pick and
yep.
goes, it might be a small thing, but I don't think a lot of young players or inexperienced players coming into the Springbok side are just picking and going against the All Blacks on their own. But if you know you've got Pieter-Steph du Toit that's going to take the next one, you will. But that just shows me the level of confidence and also the dynamic within the Springbok squad, that guys like that are allowed to have a go.
Yeah, and so if we're looking for like, which is a fool's errand to try and replace Pieter-Steph, I do think Elrigh comes closest, in the sense that he's proud. He wants to win every battle. There's an internal indomitability of it. Like, you're not going to push me back. You're not going to bring me down. That, which may have led to somewhat to his injury, actually. But, he'll come back stronger. He'll come back quicker and smarter. He will, for sure. I believe in the boy. But I do think, he has that, sense of time. You never see Pieter-Steph rushed. And even when he's doing these tackle point zone collisions, this is where Elrigh has to still grow into it, but he's young. I think on the clean, he's going to get pinged a little bit more than Pieter-Steph. So on our categories, we have him ranked second highest, 38 as a specimen. I think there's some shredding and some leaning out that can possibly happen during this rehab. Tackle 29 out of 30. I mean, just a little bit here and there. Gain line, I have him at 19. He's a monster, just behind Pieter-Steph, but the second in class. And then on cleans 8. So that comes out to 94 out of 100. The heir apparent. And if he can inject a little bit of fluidity, maybe a bit more kick chase, he's right there. And he's someone that can bank a long time. So before we go off to the engineer, we just covered the sheriff. Any closing remarks you have on Elrigh? What do you see in looking through these clips? Was there anything that leapt out at you that you didn't know about him?
I pretty much knew what I was going to see with Elrigh, because he's such a and I say predictable in the respectful sense, with what you're going to get. I think what I'm looking forward to is his combination with Cameron Hanekom. Now, I think what's important to note, and what's good, is that they're not fighting for the same position.
Yes.
And it's kind of like Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas on the Ryder Cup team playing together, but in competition.
Yeah.
There will be a competition of who makes the most tackles, who's got the most carries, who's got the most turnovers. And that is great competition to have. But there's not the competition for the jersey, which might bring animosity at some stage when the coaches aren't being truthful, or not that it's happening, but it can happen. And then you can resent the player instead of the coaches in situations like that. And I'm just spitballing here, just putting hypothetical situations out there. But the fact that and I think that's going to help him get to that next level of kick chase athleticism, because Hanekom is that. I think that combination is very important for his growth going forward.
Yeah. So these guys, Elrigh and Pieter-Steph, have similarities, really strong families. Pieter-Steph's granddad was Pieter du Toit. I don't know, how strong do you have to be called Muscles as a nickname in the Boerland, eh? Our next guy, Jason Dixon, is a bit more of a talker. He doesn't maybe follow my rule of that he doesn't say very much at 7. Jason Dixon's an structural engineer. His white paper at Stellenbosch, highly regarded, peer reviewed. This is a smart guy. I mean, he's the guy who could actually hire as an engineer. Forget about rugby. What attracted to me, Western Province guys are always going to get the most grief on our channel, but what attracted to me was his potential. Not where he is right now, but the potential for volume. And by that, I mean taking every single involvement in the game, which I've done from time to time for the various candidates, usually at the lock or flank. And you just say, I'm going to isolate Jason Dixon or whoever. It could be Guido Petty. It could be Pakis Botha. You just say, what did the guy do? Because it's interesting to watch a guy like Jason Dixon operate. So I took one. It was in the Brisbane win for the Boks, 33-7. And he had 79 involvements. And to put that in like a context, by that I mean like specific things you do. It could be attending a ruck. You don't have to be a heroic ruckling, but you have to actually get there and be a meaningful part of it. Most players only get to about 50, 60 involvements. It's hard work to get hit and get up and do it again. Jason Dixon has his mouth guard is in during the anthem. His button is button at the top. His hair is ready to go. He's ready to go. He's an engineer. Okay. And we have some flaws to discuss about Jason Dixon because sometimes he tries to do too much. But he's not a guy you have to go, hey, guy, get involved. He's not one of those. He's Energizer Bunny. 79 involvements, 27 of them good, the way I rank them is the good ones, which is something extra, something not just catching a line out. If you get the right lift and the right toss, it's not that difficult.
That's your job, yes.
That's just fine. Good meaning you make a line break. You make a tip pass that puts someone else into space. You clean someone one-on-one out wide where you didn't have good shoulder position and you still get it done. That kind of thing. 27 goods, 52 fines, and nothing bad. Now, he went on the rest of the season to do some things. He went too much. He tried to offload too much in critical moments. But take us through Jason Dixon now. I'm eager to see the pictures of the engineer.
Harry, again, before we go, I just want to check those contributions. How many of them were carries? Did you specify the carries and the cleans? Was it more cleans than carries?
Yes, you don't give you anything for a scrum. Lineouts, yes, if it was you catching, or you had a special lift. It was a one-man lift by Jason that I gave him credit for. On the clean and the carry, you get everything for your carry. If you make a line and that's about it, then you should have, that's fine. If it's good, you broke a tackle, you beat a defender, or you prolonged the tackle. And then on the clean, it's difficult sometimes because you have two people cleaning the same time. But if you can find one where it was him doing it or not, or he had to, so Jason got to 3 different Lorax 20 meters apart in one movement within 10 seconds. That's elite. That's Pieter-Steph du Toit territory.
That's what I was going to ask about, because the games that I saw of him, he looked like he was hitting a lot more rucks than he was carrying ball.
He's not at the level of carry that we'd like to see yet. And that's why he's going to have the lowest on the gain line on this one. But on tackle, he's plenty hungry, and on cleans, I think he's the best cleaner, because I think first of all, I think that engineering brain comes in here, and when he takes good lines to the ruck. He gets to the ruck quicker than most. He cheats a little bit. He doesn't go to the ball. He goes to where the ball will be, and so he uses some extrapolation there. But he's a guy that I know that the Bok coaches love, and they want to work with him. He probably needs to add a bit to be more of a specimen, and I'm sure he can do it.
Well, we'll get into some of those work-ons, but there's the potential, like you mentioned, is definitely there. Now, firstly, there's more line-out clips for Jason Dixon. Just so natural. Even when he gets it wrong, he gets it right, misses that one, still gets to play the gadget play, even though there was a bit of a fumble.
He's a primary target.
This delivery is so classic and so clean. Look at that arm, perfect delivery. And this is something that I was unaware of. I knew he was a line-out option, but I never knew how good he was in the line-out. Again, they run it with him on this one. The Boks actually score with this try. I'm sure Mr. Matt Williams would have something to say about this too, but we'll wait for that one.
Ruining lineouts.
Yes. And then even on the pressure catch, the way he gets the ball away from that great delivery, and we get to play that launch. Now, the one thing that I'm not seeing a lot, and maybe I just didn't have a lot of clips of that, is his breakdown potential. Is there, maybe you can talk to me about that. Is that something that he needs to work on?
At Province and Marties, but also at Province and then at Stormer level, he's always been around so many jacklers. I mean, whether it's Dion, whether it's they always have jacklers on the field. And his primary duty, as I understand it, has been line out and clean. He's not been someone that they've looked to get over the ball, and I think he's uncomfortable with it still. He's very lanky as well. So, like you said, Elrigh can get there, but Elrigh has a very strong base. And I think it takes a lot for a giraffe-shaped guy like Ben Jason to do that.
Uncomfortable is a great word, and lanky, because you'll see him getting into great position. Yeah. Now, if he stays in this position, he's got a chance. Now, the previous clips I showed you about Pieter-Steph and Elrigh, you'll see their feet is just a bit behind their backside, which gives you a bit of a pillar when the clean comes in. But what Dixon does, he pulls his feet up and he gets smashed on that one. So he's got no chance to survive that clean. And like you said, it's an uncomfortable, gets on the ball immediately. If he stays there, he can drop his height. He's got the pillars behind. I think he's got to get this into his game more, because the other guys, they've got that jackal ability. We move on to the tackle. Also doesn't have a problem with getting body in front. That's a bit of a dangerous one. But again, that vacuum is difficult to defend. He also gives me the impression he gives away his feet quite early. He kind of drops that one. I see this in Japan quite a bit. They train this at university level, where they drop the inside knee to ensure that they love a leg chop over here, Harry. So they want to get as low as possible. But no problem with getting body in front.
The chopsticks tackle.
Yeah, something like that. And then a bit chesty, yeah, but aggressive.
Yeah.
He is chesty, but he's aggressive on that one. And yeah, nice high line with Jesse Creel. Again, just dropping the head. You'll see on the next frame, dropping that knee. So what this means is you've got one bullet to kill the king. If you don't make the tack, if you can't get anything, if you can't hold on to him, if there's no stick after the hit, you're going to miss the tackle. And he gets that one leg and he makes the tackle on that one. This one as well, gets off the line. That's just too wide. Feet way too wide, checks way too early, doesn't get close to Kane. And then what he does is he launches himself. And he punches hard enough to get Kane off balance. And it just shows you he's not afraid to put the shoulder in. But I think that initial position, he's got to take more space, close him up, and don't get into that position when he tackles.
You want him to take more like pitter-patter steps before he hits two more.
That's right. Use your check zone earlier. And then if you need to, because a lot of players get into that 2-foot plant. And I know that's not ideal, but if you've got forward lean, Pieter-Steph tackles like that, he punches off that. But you don't want to be in this position where you're side on, and like I said, just one bullet to kill the king. Against the Sharks, off the line out, getting off the line, good line speed. Now, that's an early tuck. That's a very early tuck. So this is a double shoulder that needs to happen. And he just stays in his lane and he stays side on, which I think there's a big hit waiting to happen here. Farid does well and he rips it. But again, I think early tuck, Dixon can get his shoulder in there early and assist Farid on that one. So let's get to his carries. It's something that's going to be brought up quite a bit in a couple of clips. It looks to me like Dixon's got good feet. He can use his feet. But he uses them a bit late though. There's the space. He should have probably just gone there from the beginning. He gets right in front. And you'll see the steps there. He steps off, but that's into that double shoulder that we spoke about last week, that simultaneous one. He's not getting one and then the other. He's getting into that double shoulder together. But he's got good enough hands to get rid of it and limit the damage. Again, carry, and look at the disconnect beside this double shoulder here. So either on the outside, there should be someone running into that space, or Dixon can get into this space here very early and isolate this defender on this side. Steps very late. Again, now it becomes slow ball. But what he does well is that little release and go, gets the offload, great awareness, and this is Western Province or Stormers at their best, throwing the offloads. Again, gets himself away. This was quite good.
He's
Ball
quick.
transfer.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying?
He's quick. He's quick off the mark. Like from here.
I'd like to see that more.
Yeah.
See the ball transfer, it's like a back. Next handoff on that side, ball available. And if we go back to the previous ball carry, see how static he is? So it's a catch, run, and then attacking into it, where I'd love to see him build up a head of steam. Just get yourself a bit deeper or get into the run before you get the ball. Just make them sit a bit on that gain line instead of them getting off the line and them beating you to the gain line. And then this is his body position that I think sometimes he does lose the shoulder battle if you compare it to Pieter-Steph that I showed you earlier, where he closes up that space and then gets held up on this one. But Pieter-Steph closes up that space, they don't get there, and he can actually leg drive from there. That's why Pieter-Steph's post-contact meters are so high, because he kind of gives him this back part of his neck and back, and then just keeps going. Another one where he can use his feet a bit more. I think he's got this guy working to the inside. And then if you decide you are going to carry there, drop the ball, drop the shoulders, and get yourself hip height and make it difficult for them to tackle. Good carry though. He used his body well there. And then just last one on the carry. Good tip, stays alive, even though he got half tackled, and he secures that ball. Now, when we get to the rucking, like we said, he's not afraid to get in there and clear people away and remove threats. Box kick back. Works himself into a position. And he moves them off the ball. So are you moving bodies or are you hugging bodies? That's the question. So this is a clip we need to... Good decision making. The defender actually backs away, and that's easy to go off your feet. He identifies that very early, keeps his feet, and there's nothing that the ref can actually blow him for there. I thought that was great awareness. His entry, like you said, he gets into a cheat mode, and he's just got to be careful of getting that side entry, and especially there right onto the legs. Because he gets side on, obviously that's going to be the target that he gets onto. Again, I think, again, maybe preserving that tip line a bit long and kind of working them to the sideline instead of to their try line. And it's something that he's just got to be thinking of when he gets into because he's hitting a lot of rucks, Harry. He's going to draw attention to himself when this is what it looks like every single time. So yes, Harry, lots of potential. I think if he can use his evasion a bit more with his carries, if he can be more dynamic before the run itself, get into a bit of momentum and then carry, I think his carries can look a lot different. He'll definitely get more gain line. And on his cleans, he's got a great work rate when it comes to that. Just have a look at that entry so that you don't start building up a reputation, and refs tend to blow what they think you're going to do and not what you do.
But Jason Dixon, interesting character in this play, because he's definitely not he's not first string and he's not second string. He's probably right there between second and third string. The coaches trust him enough to put him on the field against the All Blacks and in games that count. And the attractiveness of Ben Jason is in the volume. So you have Pieter-Steph's volume, but you don't you what you lack is sort of the full-time brutality of Elrigh. And so he's definitely a utility forward. We rank him we structured him at 91, so plenty of work on there behind Elrigh by a good 3 points and behind Pieter-Steph, his hero, at 98. It's interesting when you're in the same team as a guy that you look up to, like when you say, "Oh, who was your guy going up?" and it's Pieter-Steph. So now it comes time to talk about our dark horse. So far, we've been doing very well in these dark horses. And our guy here is Ruan Venter. He's so angry and big that he repels nicknames. He has no nickname. He doesn't need one. The guy's 22 in his 535 minutes so far in the ERC. You know, it's 89 carries, 86 tackles, dominant carries, dominant tackles, you know, completion rate high, gain line extremely high, about 70% over the gain line. He's hit 100, so, you know, rucks on attack. He's hit a 50 on the defense. He's been hurt a little bit here and there, but he plays that way. What's interesting about Ruan to me, besides the fact that he was capped in Bloemfontein, so that shows you that he's already on the radar, is he grew up with a coach as a father. And because he was just playing wherever he was going to school, wherever his dad was, he didn't get to go to the big schools coming up, you know. So Grant Como, no notice. You know, COVID was kind of awkwardly timed around Craven Week. So Ruan's got a chip on his shoulder. He lost his dad. His dad tragically died. He carries around with him a lot of pain. And I think that Rossi and co, they like people who come through the hard way. And I don't think it's a prerequisite, but I think it's something that attracts them. That it's not all guys who grew up, you know, in the perfect wine farm that was going to the proper school. Now, so he was playing at Sutherland near Centurions, you know, just English school, not that interested in rugby. And so he was kind of trying to make his mark. He ends up getting to go to Boys High and Parle and ends up going from third team to second team to first team. What you like about anything you see about Ruan Venter is his utter commitment. And if you were thinking about a bouncer, I mean, of these four guys we're talking about right now, I don't know, he might be the best one. Obviously, rugby is different from bouncing. But if you just look at someone you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley and try to take down, Ruan Venter is your man. He's so young still. So what did you see when you took a look at the novice, Ruan Venter?
Well, the first thing is what you just mentioned is that bouncer part. You know, the specimen part is heavier than Pieter-Steph, and he's the same length as Ben Jason Dixon. But he's 22 years old. Talk about potential. And talk about coming through the hard times. You know, at the moment, the Lions are battling, and it's tough to play in a team where the wins aren't coming as easy. The structure seems to always be under pressure, and you have to keep fighting. Now, somewhere it's got to turn, and it will turn. But he's working through that at the moment, which I think it's a good thing. It shows you where you lack in certain skills, and it forces you to focus on that even more. The one thing I am concerned about is that I looked at the line-out takes, and he's not an out-and-out line-out specialist. Mm. And I don't know if it's due to his size. He's only 3 kgs lighter heavier than Pieter-Steph, but is not someone that you'll see them using in the line-out specifically, you know, in certain games. So that's the one thing. And then the other thing is for him to, and like he's 22 years old, there's still so much potential and space for growth. But I think he's got to, at some stage, he's got to bounce out of his shell, and he's got to show some communication and leadership. I think he's just the guy that says, you know, they say, run into this channel, I'll run into that channel. You know, I want him to stand up in a meeting and say, boys, our folding is terrible. We're getting this wrong. And maybe he does. Maybe he does. It just doesn't look, at the moment, it looks like that that young player in a side that's just happy to be there. I'll do whatever you tell me. If you want me to play 15, I'll play 15. Just give me a jersey and I'll play. But I want him to get to that place where he's giving that communication and showing some leadership, because one of the traits of the 7 is that you have to be have some form of communication and leadership within you, because you're so involved in the game.
Yeah, I think we have him correctly rated here as a proper specimen. He's right there with Elrigh on specimen. Where he could gain there on specimen level and body level is specific rugby-centric exercises, almost going out there with a tennis ball and you're trying to get on the ground and the ball's bouncing. You got to catch it before the second bounce and you got to be up again and do it again. You know, specifically getting him to play to a ball that's smaller. So you're always thinking and your brain is engaged like you do with Pieter-Steph, Ben Jason and Elrigh. They're always looking around. On the tackle zone, he's a bit like Willem Alberts in that he's always going for the big scalp. And so I would, caution him maybe at this stage. I think that's where he lacks the most is his misses will count a lot more because he's right there in the funnel. Gain line, though, I mean, geez, he's good. And then on cleans, he's definitely someone who can move a body. He can move a piano, forget a body. So we have him ranked there at 89, so just below the 90s. Someone that's on the radar. And one thing is for sure, trying to replace a guy like Pieter-Steph du Toit, or thinking about it, it's almost like sacrilegious. So you think, what are we trying to do here? And like you said, why couldn't he just play forever? But in the off chance that he does come to, Father Time being undefeated and the Malmesbury missile, is grounded for some reason. And these guys have all tended to have big injuries and big rehabs. I think we well positioned. And what's also true is that a guy like Ben Jason, who could be viewed as a lock, can play this position. Elrigh, same thing. So the fact that you have people like Ruan Nortje looking, the Bulls looking at him as maybe one of these guys is interesting as well. The tail of the tape then for the bouncer of the box is Pieter-Steph du Toit, leader of class, leader of the world. Specimen 40 out of 40, tackle 30 out of 30. Gain line 19 out of 20, clean 9, so he's got a 98. Just behind him, Elrigh Louw at 94. A little slippage there on the tackle and the clean. And then Ruan Venter, our dark horse, behind Jason Dixon, who comes in at a 91 with probably some work to do around specimen and carrying and gain lining. And then finally, the big boy, the young man, Ruan Venter, just at the 89. So when you look at those scores across the line, no one is someone that they couldn't turn to. I think Rassie will turn to any of these guys in a pinch, but no question, it's still Pieter-Steph du Toit's position to lose. Thanks a lot, André. Really enjoy this series. I end up in the middle of it wanting to talk about these detours and go into it with you because I'm learning so much about just how we look at these guys. But we'll be back again with the bank robber, number 6, the open sider.
Yeah, thanks, Harry. Thanks for doing the prep that you did. Put us onto a good show tonight.
Our ultimate 2025 Springbok team every Sunday with André Pretorius